Right, we're going to kick things off. First things with augmented underwriting, better, quicker risk pricing. Richard Smith and Simon Clapham, come and join me. So Richard is the Chief Product Officer at Verisk.
SBS.
VSBS thing. Simon Clapham, your Avatar. Now, Avatar will be a new name to many here. Tell us about Avatar. Have you given birth yet, or is it still?
No, we're still gestating.
Right. How far have you got?
Well, in time, a long way. Have we reached the touchline? No. So Avatar, we've set ourselves up as an MGA. We're incorporating next generation underwriting with advanced technology and high precision data. And we've been working with Verisk to create an end-to-end platform to underwrite US property risks.
So why US property? Because a lot of people don't like US property.
Okay, so augmented underwriting is all about data and doing comparative analytics. And there is more data on property than any other class of business, and especially in America. So there's data on construction, occupancy, and there's models that look at fire, hail, wind, quake. And so there are other classes that there is data on, but at the moment, I think we need to go out and test it on the property side.
So pick the class with the most data and build your model around that. Presumably, that's what took you to the Verisk supermarket of products and services, is it?
It was. I mean, I know I've been to more than 4 events here, and there have been a lot of good companies coming up with all sorts of different products, looking at pricing, modeling, flood, roofs, age, all sorts of things. But at Verisk, they've certainly got the majority of the applications that we were looking for. So I approached them 3 years ago, and in my previous job, we were a big client of Verisk's. And I said, you've got a lot of platforms in London helping underwriters do policy administration. You've got a headless rater in Rulebook, and you've got other platforms on outwards, claims. Your parent has got petabytes of data and also lots of models that look at perils against risk. And you also own one of the leading cat modelers. So have you ever thought about bringing it all together under one roof? So that's where I went.
But they have thought about bringing it together under one roof before, haven't they? Richard, I'm going to be fabulously ungracious, given you're a sponsor, and say what Simon's just talked about is one Verisk, or the Verisk ecosystem, or something which I've heard much vaunted over the years. But is it now a thing? I mean, you've talked a good story, but is it coming together in one place, this sort of marvellous data supermarket?
Yeah, I'd expect nothing less, Robin. So, but the difference here is we've started with a business problem and then worked out how we can solve it. Previously, I think what we'd started with is a collection of products and looked at how we could integrate them. This is about saying, how do we approach a problem and find a solution? The key thing here is we're looking at 2 key metrics for this. How do we take away the noise from data augmentation? We've got lots of data, but thrown at a customer doesn't help anybody. It's just lots of information, and provide a normalized view of risk. And also, how do we take the underwriter, or help take the underwriter out of the echo chamber of a single risk and allow them to do portfolio underwriting with our applications? So get the data, make it normalized and standardized, and allow them to view it in a way which helps them. And actually, to follow up on that, we've actually also changed our internal structure a bit as well, creating solution-based teams rather than product-based teams. So our whole ethos is around a problem solution.
Can I translate that for underwriters? Okay. So what we're looking at on the property side, you've got to imagine the poor old underwriter sitting there, and I've actually spent most of my years underwriting satellite risks, where you get 6 months to a year to underwrite a single launch. Whereas on the property side, you're given days, maybe a week, to analyse the risk. Now, the property risks that come over to London, apart from having a large contract and maybe a survey report, et cetera, you've also got an Excel spreadsheet with literally thousands and thousands of rows of property details. And the underwriters are supposed to assimilate that data, analyze it, and work out what they're going to do with it. Majority of them, and with all due respect to any of you in the room, they don't actually look at it. They might play with the data, they might sort it into columns and say, oh, look, that looks quite big. But really, there's just far too many, because you go word blind looking at an Excel spreadsheet, and you just don't know what to do with it all. So they pass it over to the CAT modelers, either internally or it gets shipped out over to the Far East. So what are they actually, how are they actually underwriting the property risks? So what we've done with Verisk is create this model that pushes through each separate property, and we're using the models with Verisk to analyze them based on their construction and location and occupancy, and throw models at doing fire, hail, and flood. And we've come up with a scoring system in a new app called SQL AI. Avatar's built the algorithms to do the mathematics behind it. So the underwriter's presented with a dashboard at the end where they've got the pricing and CAT modeling, because it's gone into AR and come back again automatically. And the scoring system is rolled up for an overall policy score, and you can drill down to peril score and all the property score. So you've got everything in front of you, and it's all been done without the underwriter having to pile through and go through the Excel spreadsheet.
You've done all that, and then Lloyd still won't give you approval.
Well, we did knock on their door for a year. We were knocking, staring through the letterbox, and having been on the other side, knowing what went on. But I was back outside staring through, and you had to take it last year. The CAT position was all up in the air. The market was in turmoil. So they were very reluctant to let a syndicate a new syndicate to start to write CAT risk, and a new syndicate to bring in a new model that was untried and tested. So they said, look, don't come in formally because we'll kick you out. Go away for 2 years. And then if you've proved it, you can come back. Will I?
So thank you, Simon. That's really helpful from an underwriter's perspective. From your perspective, Rich, what this issue of underwriters getting more information than they can handle is going to be a recurring theme, and Jess from Swiss Re is going to talk about it later. You basically have to take all this data in its many formats and its many sources and turn it into something that Simon and his team can use. What does that involve you doing? I mean, that's part of your solutions team, is it?
Yes, so with this solution, it's a new solution, but it's not new products. We've taken a load of really well-known market-leading products and integrate them together. So SQL AI is the only new component in this. SQL.ai does what Simon just described of the augmentation and the scoring, but then we pass it through Rulebook for pricing, through Touchstone for probabilistic modelling, through using the Verisk data, which has been around for a long time, Power BI as a presentation layer. We're just trying to take things that exist today and are well-trusted and well-known and provide the data in an interesting way. One thing we've been clear on all along we talk to people is our solution starts at the point where we can consume the data. It's all about digital first. So things like white space, feeding data from a slip directly in actually benefits everybody. This is about saying, how do we get the data digital as early as possible? And this process helps that, because any piece of business that goes in, whether it's declined, interviewed or taken up, can flow through the same process, be augmented in the same way, and the Avatar team can then get insights that others wouldn't get from business they're not accepting.
Simon, are you worried that you're providing something that everybody wants, which is why you did it in the first place? Are you a bit worried about being overwhelmed? You better get that model right.
Paralysis by analysis. Yes. The underwriter's finally going to get the information in front of him or her and have to decide what they're going to do with it. But we've put a RAG rating over it, so it's going to make it a lot easier to look at. So with property, the average underwriter gets about 6,000 risks coming through the door. The plan is to put all 6,000 through the system, and the system will actually show you which ones you need to decline, because we already preset the risk appetite into the algorithms, so you'll be able to focus on the green ones rather than the amber and red. So it makes it a lot simpler, the most important thing is, and this is all in my research, is that so 6,000 come in, they end up writing 1,200 and they chuck out 3,800, and that data has gone away. So what we're looking to do is to push it all through, keep all that data, and then when there's downtime, analyse the data and look at strategically changing our plan.
We'll come back to your maths in a minute. Rich, for you, you've done this for property. Can it be done for something else? Is that on the roadmap? How do you see that?
Yeah, it can. Because this is what I'd call business innovation, this is potentially a change for how underwriters consume this business. We're starting with that initial point that Simon talked about for Avatar, with property data. And we want to make sure this has got traction in the market and is real and solves a problem. But the things we've got lined up are things like offshore renewable energy, SRCC, so strikes, riot and civil commotion, potentially ESG data. Where the data's strong, this can be used. But the big challenge there is making sure we don't follow the data where there's not a problem to be solved. Offshore energy, I don't know much about offshore energy underwriting, but there's only a finite amount of risks. You can do all the analysis in the world, but most of the offshore energy underwriters probably know most of the things they want to know anyway. So this approach for that market might not make any difference. It should be a place where the data isn't being used and you're not finding out the information. And we're happy to be led by market participants, anybody else, to say where is the place where you can make the most difference.
And who you say you're now solution driven, and I don't doubt it for a second. But so who do you want to hear from? What's your sort of ideal customer look like now for you to put together something that's solution driven with all the various tool sets?
Yeah, the easy one is people like Simon and Avatar who want to try and drive a disruptive business model. I'd like us to be given a challenge of this is the way we want to operate, either as a broker or a carrier. Can you help us solve it? We have, as Simon said, we've got loads of stuff in our stable in Verisk. It's our challenge and my challenge specifically to make sure we stitch them together in the right way. But we want to do that being led by someone who wants to do something different on the business side.
I can't let you go, Simon, without asking you how long you've been in the market.
45 years and 28 days.
Not counting.
You look pretty good on it. You told me a great story when we were preparing for this about working on the box when you were younger, which sort of brings us a nice full circle to how risks analysed then and risks analysed now. Tell us.
I guess so. I guess the issue we've all got is time. How much time have you got between getting the risk and when the broker wants it back, or really the service to the client? So we're trying to create more time by doing all the heavy lifting using the augmented piece. But back in the day, I worked for Michael Marchant, and he had a few foibles. Like we weren't allowed to wear green on the box. You couldn't wear green ties. He'd only like to write blue-coloured slips when we had paper slips. And he was a big LMX underwriter. Want to translate that?
Yeah, no, you can do that.
Reinsurance of London underwriters. But he wouldn't reinsure syndicates with more than 3 numbers. And I thought that was to do with the fact that they were new syndicates and he didn't want to write them. And what I did learn was that the system we had actually only took 2 or 3 syndicate numbers. but the story I was going to tell was, there'd be a queue of brokers coming up to the box, and they'd sit down with Michael and they start doing the broke, and they'd be right in their prime spot. And then he would turn around and start talking to someone in the queue, or someone would walk past and he'd say, "Oh, come over here, let's have a chat." And the poor broker's sitting there, and he's got himself prepared. The speech is going on, but Michael keeps interrupting him. And I said to him afterwards, "Why do you do that? Isn't that rude? The poor old broker, he's got himself all geared up to speak to you." And he said, "Well, you have to remember this. The broker's been looking at this risk for months and months, weeks, and they prepared themselves to broke to you, and you've got minutes, literally minutes, to read the slip while they're prattling on, assess the risk, analyse it, and then make your mind up." And the reason why I do that, turn around and talk to people, is to completely interrupt the flow of the broker, because I need to create more time in order to be able to process the risk in my head.
An analog way of doing exactly what Verisk do for you now.
Basically.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.